Imagine walking into a neuroscience laboratory and witnessing something extraordinary. Dr. Sarah Lazar at Harvard Medical School has been conducting brain scans on people who practice focused self-development for just 8 weeks. The results are staggering. Actual structural changes in the brain. The areas responsible for learning, memory, and emotional regulation grow thicker, while the amygdala, the brain's fear center, literally shrinks. This isn't motivation speaking. This is hard science proving that consistent self-focus rewires your neural pathways for success, resilience, and well-being. But here's what the research doesn't capture: the profound shift that happens when someone truly commits to focusing on themselves. It's about recognizing a fundamental truth. You are the primary architect of your reality, and no one is coming to rescue you from mediocrity. Introduction: the surprising power of self-focus. The modern world has trained us to believe that transformation comes from external sources. We scroll through social media seeking inspiration, attend seminars hoping for breakthroughs, buy courses promising quick fixes. Yet study after study in behavioral psychology confirms what ancient wisdom traditions have known for millennia. Lasting change originates from within, through consistent, focused work on oneself. Dr. Carol Dweck's groundbreaking research on growth mindset reveals that people who focus on their own development, rather than comparing themselves to others or seeking external validation, show remarkable improvements in performance, resilience, and life satisfaction. When you truly commit to building yourself, something almost magical happens. The world begins to respond differently. Opportunities appear. People treat you with more respect. Doors open that previously seemed locked. If you'd like to purchase this book, please check the link in the description. To listen to the audiobook summary or explore it in another language, you'll also find more options in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you found this helpful. Chapter 1. Focus fully on building your strongest self. At 5:30 a.m. on a cold Tuesday morning in January, David Goggins was staring at his reflection in a gym mirror. He weighed 297 pounds, was working as a night shift exterminator, and felt completely defeated by life. Instead of making excuses, Goggins made a decision that would reshape not just his body, but his entire identity. He would focus completely on building his strongest self, starting immediately. 18 months later, Goggins had transformed into a Navy SEAL candidate. The journey wasn't magical. It was methodical. Every single day, without exception, he made choices that served his strongest self rather than his immediate comfort. Each choice was small, but the compound effect was extraordinary. Building your strongest self requires understanding that you're working with 4 fundamental building blocks: physical vitality, mental clarity, emotional resilience, and spiritual purpose. Your body is the vehicle for everything else in your life. When it's weak, sluggish, or unhealthy, every other area suffers. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that regular exercise literally grows new brain cells, enhances memory, and increases resilience to stress. Physical vitality starts with 3 non-negotiable daily practices. Movement: your body was designed to move. Nutrition: every meal is either feeding your strength or fueling your weakness. And recovery: your strongest self emerges during rest, not just activity. Mental clarity means learning to focus your cognitive resources on what matters most through daily learning, reflection and planning, and maintaining an information diet that strengthens rather than weakens your mind. Your mind is constantly processing thousands of thoughts, ideas, and impulses. Without clear direction, this mental energy scatters in all directions, achieving little. Emotional resilience involves processing difficult emotions quickly and using them as fuel for growth rather than reasons for giving up. Life will test you through failures, rejections, disappointments, and setbacks. Your strongest self isn't the version that never experiences negative emotions, it's the version that handles them skillfully. Spiritual purpose connects you with something larger than yourself, a mission, a calling, a set of values that gives meaning to your daily actions. Without this sense of purpose, even the most disciplined habits eventually feel empty. This involves clarifying your values, developing a service orientation, and engaging in legacy thinking. The daily practice of self-construction requires identity-based habits, small actions that reinforce the person you're becoming rather than just achieving the results you want. Your morning routine should prime your mind, energize your body, and align your spirit before the world makes its demands on your attention. Chapter 2: Train your mind to ignore outside noise. On September 5, 1977, Steve Jobs stood before a room of Apple employees and made an announcement that seemed insane to almost everyone in the technology industry. Apple was going to create a computer that ordinary people would want to use. The experts laughed. Competitors dismissed the idea. Technology journalists wrote articles explaining why it would never work. Jobs had a choice: listen to the noise and play it safe, or trust his vision and move forward despite the criticism. The ability to ignore outside noise isn't a natural talent. It's a learned skill that separates those who achieve their potential from those who get lost in the static of other people's opinions, fears, and limitations. Your brain processes approximately 11 million bits of information every second, but your conscious mind can only handle about 40 bits. This means that 99.999% of available information must be filtered out for you to function at all. The question isn't whether you'll filter information, it's whether you'll control that filter or let it control you. Dr. Adam Gazzaley's research reveals that our brains have two competing networks: the task-positive network, that focuses on goals, and the default mode network, that wanders and worries. People who achieve exceptional results have learned to strengthen the task-positive network while quieting the default mode network. We're living in what researcher Matthew Crawford calls the attentional commons, a shared space where everyone is competing for your mental bandwidth. Social media platforms, news organizations, advertisers, and even well-meaning friends and family are constantly broadcasting messages designed to capture and hold your attention. Your strongest self recognizes that attention is your most precious resource. Unlike time or money, attention can't be stored or borrowed, it can only be spent. How you spend your attention literally shapes who you become. Everyone has opinions about how you should live your life, creating what psychologists call choice paralysis, the inability to make decisions because you're trying to satisfy too many perspectives at once. Your strongest self distinguishes between opinions worth considering and opinions that are simply noise based on credibility of the source, relevance to your situation, and alignment with your values and goals. The modern media landscape is designed to capture attention through emotional arousal. Fear, anger, outrage, and anxiety are more engaging than calm analysis or nuanced thinking. Regular media consumption literally trains your brain to expect drama and crisis. Social media platforms are engineered to be addictive, using variable ratio reinforcement schedules to keep you checking for notifications. Creating mental clarity requires building boundaries, clear distinctions between what deserves your attention and what doesn't. These boundaries aren't walls that isolate you from the world, they're filters that allow beneficial input while screening out destructive noise. Establish information boundaries through scheduled consumption, source curation, and choosing depth over breadth. The most powerful way to ignore outside noise is to develop such strong internal validation that external opinions lose their emotional charge. When you deeply trust your own judgment, Others' approval becomes nice to have rather than necessary for your well-being. This requires developing self-knowledge through values clarification, strengths assessment, and goal alignment. Chapter 3: Fight for your dreams when no one believes. In 1985, a young woman named Oprah Winfrey was told by her television station manager that she was too emotional for television news. Her co-anchor complained that she lacked credibility. Critics said she was too personal, too involved with her stories, too different from what audiences expected. Oprah had two choices: conform to others' expectations or fight for her vision of authentic, heart-centered communication. This is the reality of pursuing meaningful dreams. Belief is your responsibility, not something you can borrow from others. The bigger your vision, the more likely it is to be met with skepticism, doubt, and outright dismissal. Dreams worth pursuing are often invisible to others until they become reality. When you can see something that doesn't yet exist, you're operating from imagination while everyone else is operating from current evidence. Dr. Carol Dweck's research reveals why this disconnection happens. Most people operate from a fixed mindset. They believe that abilities, intelligence, and circumstances are largely static. This isn't malicious. People aren't trying to crush your dreams, they're trying to protect you from disappointment. Their doubt comes from love, fear, or their own unfulfilled aspirations. But regardless of the motivation, the effect is the same: a constant stream of well-meaning input that can erode your confidence if you're not prepared for it. When you announce an ambitious goal, people's reactions reveal more about their own limitations than about your potential. People tend to project their own fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs onto others' plans. If someone is afraid of failure, they'll focus on all the ways your plan could fail. Fighting for your dreams when no one believes requires developing warrior mindset, a combination of inner strength, strategic thinking, and relentless persistence that allows you to move forward despite external opposition. Self-belief isn't the absence of doubt, it's the willingness to act despite doubt. Build your self-belief on concrete evidence rather than empty affirmations. The best antidote to doubt is competence. If you want to start a business, study successful businesses obsessively. Confidence built on actual knowledge and skill is much more stable than confidence built on wishful thinking. The clearer your vision, the easier it becomes to resist others' attempts to redirect you. Fighting for your dreams isn't about blind stubbornness, it's about intelligent persistence. Learn to distinguish between useful feedback and mere opinion. Instead of trying to convince everyone that your entire vision will work, create small tests that demonstrate progress. Every rejection is information, not condemnation. The fight for your dreams typically progresses through predictable stages: announcement backlash, immediate skepticism, silent struggle, working without visible results, first breakthrough, concrete evidence of possibility, and sustained campaign, building from viability to sustainability. Different people will doubt your dreams in different ways. Family and friends often equate loving you with protecting you from disappointment. Professional contacts might doubt based on their experience in your field. As your dreams become more public, you'll encounter criticism from strangers. While you must be prepared to fight alone, having support makes the journey significantly easier. Build your network intentionally by seeking fellow dreamers, joining communities, and investing in mentorship. The fight for your dreams is ultimately a fight for your authentic self. Chapter 4: Show up for yourself every single day. Jerry Seinfeld revealed his secret to becoming one of history's most successful comedians: a large wall calendar and a red marker. For each day that I do my task of writing, I get to put a big red X over that day. Your only job next is to not break the chain. This simple system illustrates one of the most powerful principles of personal transformation: consistency beats intensity every time. Your brain is constantly changing based on what you repeatedly do. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. Every time you repeat an action, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with that behavior, making it easier to perform in the future. Dr. Anne Grabiel's research at MIT reveals that habits are controlled by a part of the brain called the basal ganglia, which operates largely below conscious awareness. When you first learn a new behavior, it requires significant mental effort and conscious attention. But through repetition, the behavior becomes increasingly automatic until it requires minimal willpower to maintain. This is why consistency is more powerful than intensity. A person who exercises for 20 minutes every day will see better long-term results than someone who works out intensely for 2 hours once a week. The daily exerciser is building neural pathways that make physical activity feel natural and automatic. Small actions, repeated consistently, create exponential results over time. This principle, known as the compound effect, applies to every area of life. If you read just 20 pages per day, you'll complete approximately 18 books per year. Over a decade, that's 180 books, enough to make you genuinely expert in any field you choose to study. Showing up for yourself every day creates what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to influence events that affect your life. Each time you keep a commitment to yourself, you prove that you can be trusted to follow through on your intentions. This self-trust becomes the foundation for increasingly ambitious goals. Showing up for yourself every day isn't about willpower or motivation. It's about creating systems that make consistency easier than inconsistency. Most people focus on what they want to achieve, outcome-based goals, rather than who they want to become, identity-based goals. This creates a fundamental mismatch between their self-image and their actions. Your strongest self aligns actions with identity. Instead of trying to write a book, you become someone who writes daily. When your actions align with your identity, consistency becomes easier because you're simply being true to who you are. Your environment has enormous influence over your behavior. People who maintain consistent positive habits design their environments to make those habits easy and automatic. Arrange your physical space, social environment, and digital environment to support the behaviors you want to repeat. One of the most effective ways to build new daily habits is to attach them to existing routines. This technique, called habit stacking, leverages the neural pathways you've already established. The formula is simple. After I, existing habit, I will, new habit. The biggest obstacle to consistency is waiting for motivation. Motivation is emotional weather, sometimes present, sometimes absent, always changing. Your strongest self understands that motivation follows action, not the reverse. Many people abandon daily habits after missing a single day because they feel they've broken their streak. Your strongest self embraces progress over perfection. The power of showing up for yourself every day lies not in any single day's actions but in the compound effect of consistency over time. Your daily practices are votes for the identity you want to create. Every small positive action is evidence that you're serious about your growth and capable of sustained change. Chapter 5: Cut out every distraction that weakens your focus. In 2007, Adam Gazzaley conducted a groundbreaking experiment at UC San Francisco. He gathered young adults and older adults to identify birds in nature photographs while ignoring other animals. While young adults performed better overall, both groups struggled significantly when distractions were introduced. But when all distractions were removed, the performance gap almost disappeared entirely. This study reveals a crucial truth: your ability to focus isn't primarily limited by age, intelligence, or natural talent. It's limited by your willingness to eliminate distractions from your environment and mental space. In our modern world, the average person is interrupted every 11 minutes and takes 23 minutes to fully refocus. Most people spend their entire day in partial attention, never accessing deep focus states where breakthrough thinking becomes possible. Distractions don't just waste time. They fundamentally alter how your brain functions. When you're constantly switching between tasks and stimuli, you're training your brain to crave novelty and resist sustained attention. This creates what Dr. Ghazali calls continuous partial attention, a state where you're always somewhat distracted even when trying to focus. Your brain has two primary attention networks: the focused attention network and the default mode network. Healthy brains alternate between these naturally, but chronic distraction prevents this natural rhythm, keeping you stuck in a state of agitated semi-focus that's both exhausting and unproductive. Every time you shift attention from one task to another, your brain experiences a switching cost, the mental energy required to disengage, reorient, and rebuild mental context. Dr. Sophie Leroy's research shows that when you switch tasks, part of your attention remains stuck on the previous task, reducing cognitive capacity for the new task. Perhaps the most significant cost of chronic distraction is its impact on creativity and deep thinking. Breakthrough insights emerge during periods of mental quiet when your brain can make unexpected connections between previously unrelated ideas. But this creative processing requires genuine mental downtime, not just switching between different forms of stimulation. Digital distractions include social media addiction, platforms engineered using variable ratio reinforcement schedules, information overload, unlimited access creating analysis paralysis, and notification interruption. The average smartphone user receives 67 notifications daily. Environmental distractions include physical clutter, disorganized environments creating mental clutter, noise pollution, forcing constant filtering of irrelevant information, and visual overstimulation, open browser tabs and cluttered desks competing for attention. Internal distractions include mental chatter, 60,000 thoughts per day, 80% negative and 95% repetitive, emotional reactivity, strong emotions capturing attention, and perfectionism paralysis, the desire for perfection becoming a form of distraction. Social distractions include people-pleasing, saying yes to every request preventing focus on priorities, comparison consumption, measuring progress against others' apparent success, and drama involvement, addiction to interpersonal drama draining mental energy. Creating a focus-supporting environment involves turning off non-essential notifications, removing social media apps from your phone's home screen, using website blockers during focused work, and designating phone-free zones. Create dedicated workspaces that are clean, organized, and free from distracting items. In a culture that celebrates multitasking, embrace single tasking, dedicating full attention to one activity at a time. Despite popular belief, multitasking doesn't exist for cognitively demanding tasks. What people call multitasking is actually task switching, which decreases overall performance. External distractions get attention, but internal distractions, worry, self-doubt, mental chatter, emotional reactivity, often pose greater challenges. Learn to identify emotional states without being controlled by them, pause before reacting when strong emotions arise, and develop healthy ways to process stress. Periodically disconnect from all non-essential stimuli to reset your attention capacity. Designate periods when you completely disconnect from digital devices. Take extended breaks from social media platforms. Limit news consumption to specific times and sources. Building sustained focus capacity is like building physical strength. It requires consistent practice, gradual progression, and patience. Every moment you choose focus over distraction, you're strengthening neural pathways that make future focus easier. Your ability to focus is your competitive advantage in an attention economy. Chapter 6: Own your life without blaming anyone for anything. Viktor Frankl survived 3 concentration camps during World War II, including Auschwitz. He watched his parents, brother, and wife die in the camps while enduring unimaginable suffering himself. Yet from this experience of ultimate powerlessness, he developed one of the most powerful philosophies of personal responsibility ever conceived. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, Frankl wrote, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Frankl's insight reveals a profound truth. Even in the most extreme circumstances, you retain the power to choose your response. This choice, between ownership and blame, between responsibility and victimhood, determines not just how you feel about your circumstances, but whether you have the power to change them. The human brain is wired to look for causes when things go wrong. This causal thinking served our ancestors well. Understanding why crops failed helped them make better future decisions. But in modern life, this same mental process often leads to counterproductive blame that reduces your power rather than increasing it. When faced with setbacks, disappointments, or failures, most people's first instinct is to identify external causes. The economy crashed. The boss is unreasonable. The market changed. The competition cheated. The system is rigged. This blame reflex provides immediate emotional relief and protects your ego from discomfort. But blame is emotionally expensive and practically useless. When you blame external factors for your results, you implicitly declare yourself powerless to change those results. Ownership thinking asks a different question. Regardless of why this situation occurred, what can I do about it now? This shift from, "Why did this happen to me?" to, "What will I do next?" transforms you from a victim of circumstances into an agent of change. Dr. Julian Rotter's research on locus of control shows that people who believe their actions significantly influence their outcomes, internal locus of control, consistently outperform those who believe their outcomes are primarily determined by external forces. People with strong internal locus of control take more initiative in solving problems, persist longer when facing obstacles, learn more effectively from both successes and failures, experience lower stress and anxiety, and report higher life satisfaction. When you take ownership of your circumstances, you activate what neuroscientists call the executive control network in your brain, centered in the prefrontal cortex and responsible for planning, decision-making, and goal-directed behavior. Conversely, when you focus on blame and victimization, you activate the brain's threat detection systems, flooding your consciousness with stress hormones that impair creative thinking and problem-solving abilities. Taking ownership of your life isn't an all-or-nothing proposition. There are different levels of responsibility you can claim, each offering increasing degrees of personal power. Level 1 is response ownership. Even when you can't control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. This includes emotional ownership, taking responsibility for your emotional reactions, behavioral ownership, choosing your behavior within situations, and attention ownership, controlling what you focus your mental energy on. Level 2 is contribution ownership, honestly assessing how your decisions, actions, or inactions contributed to current circumstances. This involves decision analysis, what choices led to your current situation, pattern recognition, What patterns do you notice in your challenges, and skill assessment, what abilities might have prevented current challenges. Level 3 is creation ownership, recognizing that your current circumstances are largely the result of your past choices, actions, and thoughts compounded over time. This involves examining belief systems. Your beliefs shape the opportunities you notice, habit patterns, your daily habits create your long-term results, and vision responsibility, having a clear vision of what you want to create. In career and financial situations, instead of complaining about your current job, take ownership by clarifying what kind of work would energize you, developing needed skills, and actively seeking aligned opportunities. Rather than blaming the economy for inadequate income, explore ways to increase your value through skill development, additional income streams, or strategic career moves. In relationships, instead of focusing on how others misunderstand you, take ownership by improving your communication skills, listening more carefully, and expressing yourself clearly. Rather than waiting for others to apologize or change, own your role in conflicts and take the first step toward resolution when possible. For health and energy, own your health by educating yourself about nutrition and exercise, making daily choices that support well-being, and seeking appropriate medical care when needed. Take responsibility for your mental and emotional well-being by developing stress management skills and creating environments that support psychological health. Despite its benefits, ownership thinking faces significant psychological obstacles. Being a victim has hidden benefits: sympathy and attention from others, moral superiority over those you blame, reduced expectations from others, and energy conservation by avoiding the mental work of ownership. Taking ownership can feel overwhelming when you realize the extent of your influence over your circumstances. Fear of failure means if you own your results, you can't blame others when things don't work out. Decision anxiety occurs because ownership means acknowledging that your choices matter. Perfectionism pressure arises when you own your outcomes and feel pressure to achieve perfect results. Modern culture often reinforces victim mentality through media narratives that focus on how people are harmed by external forces, political rhetoric that emphasizes how groups are victimized by other groups or systems, and therapeutic misapplication that overemphasizes past hurts while underemphasizing present choices. Building strong ownership thinking requires consistent practice. Begin each day by clarifying what results you want to create and what actions you'll take. End each day by reviewing what went well, what could have gone better, and what you learned. When challenges arise, practice asking, "How did I contribute to this situation?" and "What can I do differently moving forward?" Weekly, look for patterns in your challenges and successes. What behaviors, decisions, or habits consistently lead to positive outcomes? Monthly, examine your core beliefs about what's possible in your life. Which beliefs empower you to take constructive action? Which beliefs excuse inaction or blame? As you develop stronger ownership thinking, you'll notice increased personal power, problems transform from unchangeable facts into solvable challenges, reduced emotional reactivity, less anger, resentment, and helplessness, enhanced problem solving, energy becomes available for creative solutions, greater resilience, faster recovery from setbacks, improved relationships, others are drawn to people who take responsibility, and authentic self-respect. Confidence built on ownership is more stable than confidence based on external validation. The path of ownership isn't always comfortable. It requires giving up the temporary emotional satisfaction of blame in exchange for the long-term empowerment of responsibility. It means acknowledging mistakes, learning from failures, and accepting that your life is primarily your creation. But this path leads to something invaluable: the knowledge that you have significant influence over your destiny. Chapter 7: Push Yourself Harder When You Feel Like Quitting. In November 2005, David Blaine was suspended in a clear acrylic sphere filled with water for 7 days, attempting to break the world record for breath holding. For 177 hours, he remained underwater with tubes feeding him air and liquid nutrition, while millions watched on live television. On day 6, with less than 24 hours remaining, Blaine began experiencing severe physical deterioration. His skin was wrinkled beyond recognition, his body was cramping violently, and medical monitors showed dangerous changes in his vital signs. Every rational voice in his head was screaming at him to quit. But Blaine had trained for this moment, not just physically, but mentally. He had spent months preparing his mind for the inevitable moment when his body and emotions would demand that he give up. When that moment came, he pushed through and broke the record, demonstrating a crucial principle: your greatest victories come not when you feel strong, motivated, and confident, but when you feel weak, discouraged, and desperate to quit. The urge to quit isn't a character flaw. It's a survival mechanism designed to protect you from harm. When your brain perceives that you're approaching your limits, it generates powerful impulses to stop, rest, and retreat to safety. This system kept our ancestors alive when facing physical dangers, but in modern life, it often prevents us from achieving our full potential. Dr. Tim Noakes, a sports scientist at the University of Cape Town, discovered that the sensation of physical exhaustion isn't primarily about your body running out of energy, it's about your brain protecting you from perceived danger. When you exercise intensely, your brain receives signals about increased heart rate, elevated body temperature, and depleted glucose levels. Before these reach truly dangerous levels, your brain generates the overwhelming urge to stop. The same mechanism operates in psychological challenges. When you're pushing yourself to grow, learn, or achieve something difficult, your brain interprets the discomfort as a threat. It generates thoughts like, "This is too hard," "You're not smart enough," "You should wait until you're more prepared," or "You might fail." This quitting cascade follows predictable stages: discomfort recognition, becoming aware that the current situation is challenging; threat assessment, your brain evaluates whether the discomfort indicates danger; escape ideation, thinking about ways to reduce or eliminate the discomfort; rationalization, developing logical-sounding reasons why quitting is smart; emotional amplification, negative emotions associated with continuing become overwhelming; and action impulse, feeling an almost irresistible urge to stop. Understanding this cascade helps you recognize that the urge to quit isn't providing accurate information about your actual capabilities or the wisdom of continuing. It's just your brain doing what it evolved to do: try to keep you safe and comfortable. One of the most important distinctions in personal development is the difference between your quit point and your actual breaking point. Your quit point is where you feel like giving up. Your breaking point is where you actually can't continue. Research by Dr. Samuele Marcora shows that people typically quit at approximately 40% of their actual physical capacity. When runners say they can't run any further, biomechanical analysis reveals they still have significant reserves of strength, energy, and endurance. The same principle applies to mental and emotional challenges. When you feel like you can't continue studying, working, or persisting with a difficult project, you're usually nowhere near your actual breaking point. The feeling of being unable to continue is just that, a feeling, not a fact. History's greatest achievements share a common characteristic: they required people to continue beyond the point where they wanted to quit. The breakthrough moment, when progress accelerates, solutions emerge, or success becomes visible, almost always comes after the quit point, not before it. Think of the urge to quit as a gatekeeper standing between you and your next level of achievement. This gatekeeper's job is to test your commitment and turn away those who aren't serious about their goals. The gatekeeper uses several strategies: physical discomfort, making the work feel harder than it actually is; emotional manipulation, generating feelings of doubt, frustration, hopelessness, and fear; logical arguments, providing rational-sounding reasons why continuing is unwise; and social pressure, highlighting how others might judge your efforts. The gatekeeper isn't malicious. It's trying to protect you from wasting energy on pursuits that might not succeed. But it can't distinguish between genuine threats and growth opportunities. To reach your potential, you must learn to recognize the gatekeeper's voice and continue despite its warnings. Every person who has achieved something significant has a story about a moment when they almost quit but didn't. These stories share remarkable similarity: the darkest hour, things seemed impossible, and every rational voice suggested giving up; the decision, a conscious choice to continue for just a little longer; and the breakthrough, often immediately after the decision to persist, circumstances shifted dramatically. Each time you push through the quitting point, you don't just advance toward your current goal, you develop what psychologists call grit. Grit is the combination of passion and persistence toward long-term objectives, and it's a better predictor of success than talent, intelligence, or any other single factor. Dr. Angela Duckworth's research shows that grit can be developed through practice. Every time you continue when you want to quit, you strengthen your capacity for delayed gratification, build confidence in your ability to handle discomfort, develop better emotional regulation under pressure, create evidence that you can achieve difficult things, and increase your tolerance for uncertainty and challenge. When you encounter the urge to quit, you need practical strategies for continuing despite the discomfort. Cognitive strategies include reframing discomfort. Instead of interpreting difficulty as a sign to stop, reframe it as evidence that you're growing, focusing on the next step. When the total challenge seems overwhelming, narrow your focus to the immediate next action. Using self-talk, develop specific phrases like, "This feeling will pass," "I am stronger than this challenge," "One more minute," and remembering your why, connect with your deeper motivation for pursuing this goal. Emotional strategies include accepting the discomfort. Stop fighting against negative emotions and instead allow them to exist while you continue working. Using anger as fuel, channel frustration into determination. Visualizing success, spend time imagining how you'll feel when you complete the challenge. And practicing gratitude, focus on what's good about your current situation. Physical strategies include controlling your breathing. Deep, controlled breathing activates your parasympathetic nervous system. Adjusting your posture, stand or sit in a confident posture. Using movement, light physical activity can reset your mental and emotional state. And fueling your body, ensure adequate nutrition and hydration. Environmental strategies include eliminating easy exits. Make quitting harder by removing or blocking access to escape routes. Creating accountability, tell others about your commitment or work in the presence of people who will notice if you give up. Changing your environment, sometimes a simple change of location provides the psychological reset needed to continue. And removing temptations, if certain objects or options make quitting more appealing, temporarily remove them. You don't have to push through all at once. Often, the most effective approach is micro-persistence, committing to continue for very small increments of time or effort. When you want to quit, commit to continuing for just 5 more minutes. This feels manageable even when you're exhausted or frustrated. Often, those 5 minutes provide enough momentum to continue for much longer. Each small push beyond your quitting point becomes a new baseline. Like a ratchet that can only move forward, These small advances in your capacity become permanent gains. You can't unknow that you're capable of more than you previously thought. Micro-persistence creates momentum that makes continued effort easier. Not all urges to quit are the same. Different situations require different strategies for persistence. When your body is tired, focus on proper breathing techniques, efficient movement patterns, mental distraction from physical discomfort, and breaking the challenge into smaller segments. When your mind is tired, try changing the type of work you're doing, taking a brief break for physical movement, using external structure and accountability, and simplifying complex tasks into basic components. When emotions are driving the urge to quit, acknowledge and accept the emotions without being controlled by them. Use breathing techniques to regulate your nervous system, connect with your deeper values and motivations, and seek support from others who understand your goals. When fear is the primary driver, focus on the immediate next step rather than the entire challenge. Use positive self-talk and affirmations. Remember previous times you've overcome similar fears, and consider what you'll regret more, trying and failing, or not trying at all. Like physical fitness, your capacity to push through quitting impulses can be systematically developed through training. Regularly expose yourself to controlled discomfort to build your tolerance. Take cold showers, exercise slightly beyond your comfort zone, fast for specific periods, sit in meditation when your mind is restless, and have difficult conversations instead of avoiding them. Gradually increase the difficulty of challenges you attempt. Start with goals that stretch you but feel achievable. As you succeed, take on slightly more difficult objectives. Each success builds evidence of your capability. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes routine. Pay attention to your personal patterns around quitting. What types of challenges trigger the strongest quitting impulses? At what point in the process do you typically want to give up? What thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations accompany these impulses? Which strategies are most effective for you in these moments? Keep a record of times when you pushed through and achieved something meaningful. What was the challenge? When did you want to quit? What helped you continue? What was the outcome? How did you feel afterward? This collection becomes evidence you can reference during future difficult moments. The moment you want to quit is the moment you discover who you really are. It's the moment when your stated values meet your actual priorities, when your declared commitments face their ultimate test. Everyone wants to succeed when success feels easy and inevitable. But your strongest self is forged in those crucial moments when continuing feels impossible, when every rational voice suggests retreat, when the outcome remains uncertain but the discomfort is guaranteed. These are the moments that separate those who achieve their potential from those who settle for less. These are the moments when champions are made, when breakthrough becomes possible, when ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. The next time you feel like quitting, remember, you're not at the end of your rope, you're at the edge of your comfort zone. And everything you want is just on the other side of that edge. Chapter 8. Trust your process, even when results are invisible. In 1962, a young bamboo farmer in China planted seeds across several acres of his family's land. For the first year, nothing visible happened. The second year brought no visible growth. The third year, still nothing above ground. His neighbors mocked him, calling his efforts foolish. His family pressured him to plant rice instead, something that would provide immediate returns. But the farmer understood something about bamboo that his critics didn't. For the first several years, bamboo grows extensive root systems underground, creating the foundation for explosive growth later. In the fourth year, small shoots finally appeared. In the fifth year, those shoots grew 90 feet in just 6 weeks. The farmer's patience and faith in his process created one of the most valuable bamboo groves in the region. This is the reality of meaningful achievement. The most important growth often happens invisibly, beneath the surface, in ways that others can't see, and sometimes in ways that you can't see either. Learning to trust your process during these invisible periods is one of the most crucial skills for long-term success. Modern neuroscience and psychology have revealed that most significant changes happen gradually, through accumulation of tiny improvements that individually seem insignificant but collectively create transformation. Your brain is constantly reorganizing itself based on your experiences, thoughts, and behaviors. Dr. Michael Merzenek's research shows that meaningful brain changes require consistent repetition over extended periods. When you practice a new skill, study challenging material, or work to change a habit, your brain begins creating new neural pathways and strengthening existing ones. But this process happens gradually, often below the threshold of conscious awareness. For the first weeks or months of learning something new, the neural changes are so subtle that they don't translate into noticeably improved performance. This is why people often experience sudden breakthroughs after periods of apparent stagnation. They weren't actually stagnating, they were building the neural infrastructure needed for higher levels of performance. Dr. K. Anders Ericsson's research on deliberate practice reveals that expertise develops through the accumulation of thousands of small improvements over many years. The journey from novice to expert isn't linear. It's characterized by long plateaus punctuated by sudden leaps in ability. During plateau periods, you're still learning and improving, but the gains are so incremental that they're not immediately obvious. You're building what Ericsson calls mental representations, sophisticated ways of organizing and processing information in your area of expertise. These mental representations allow experts to see patterns that novices miss, make decisions more quickly, and perform complex tasks more efficiently. But building these representations takes time, usually years of consistent practice. Even physical improvements that seem dramatic often result from gradual changes at the cellular level. When you start exercising regularly, your muscles don't immediately grow larger or stronger. Instead, your body begins improving cellular processes, increasing mitochondria production, enhancing oxygen delivery, building capillary networks, and optimizing protein synthesis. These improvements happen for weeks before you notice visible changes in muscle size, strength, or endurance. The most challenging aspect of invisible progress isn't the lack of results, it's the psychological difficulty of continuing without external validation that your efforts are working. Human beings are wired to seek feedback about the effectiveness of their actions. In prehistoric times, immediate feedback was crucial for survival. If hunting strategies didn't quickly produce food, trying different approaches meant the difference between eating and starving. In modern life, this same psychological mechanism creates impatience with gradual progress. You want to know quickly whether your efforts are worthwhile, and invisible periods don't provide this reassurance. This validation hunger is amplified by social media conditioning, platforms designed to provide instant feedback, consumer culture, marketing messages promising quick results, and comparison pressure, seeing others' apparent success creating pressure to achieve visible results quickly. When results aren't immediately visible, most people begin questioning their approach. Maybe I'm doing this wrong, perhaps I don't have what it takes, this is taking too long, I should try something different, other people get results faster. This doubt spiral is dangerous because it often leads to abandoning effective processes just before they would have produced visible results. Dr. Carol Dweck's research on mindset shows that people with growth mindsets are better able to persist through invisible periods because they view challenges as opportunities to develop abilities rather than tests of existing capabilities. Not all invisible progress is the same. Different types of improvement happen below the surface of conscious awareness, each requiring different strategies for maintaining faith in the process. When learning new skills, you typically progress through predictable stages: unconscious incompetence, you don't know what you don't know; conscious incompetence, you become aware of how much you need to learn; conscious competence, you can perform the skill with conscious effort; and unconscious competence, the skill becomes automatic. The transition from conscious incompetence to conscious competence involves the most invisible progress. You're working hard and improving rapidly, but performance gains aren't immediately obvious because you're still making many mistakes and requiring significant mental effort. Building new habits involves neurological changes that happen gradually. Cue recognition, your brain learns to recognize triggers; routine automation, the behavioral sequence becomes increasingly automatic; reward association, your brain connects the habit with positive outcomes; and identity integration, the habit becomes part of how you see yourself. Most of this process happens unconsciously. You might not notice that a habit is becoming easier or more automatic until suddenly you realize you're performing it without thinking about it. Athletic and fitness improvements involve numerous invisible adaptations. Neural adaptations, your nervous system becomes more efficient; metabolic adaptations, your energy systems become more efficient; structural adaptations, muscles, bones, and connective tissues gradually strengthen; and cardiovascular adaptations, your heart, lungs, and blood vessels become more efficient. These adaptations happen in sequence, with neural changes occurring first, followed by metabolic improvements, and finally structural changes. The entire process can take months, with the most dramatic visible changes occurring last. Psychological growth often involves invisible changes in emotional regulation. Your ability to manage difficult emotions improves gradually. Cognitive flexibility, your brain becomes better at switching between different types of thinking. Self-awareness, you develop clearer understanding of your own thoughts, emotions, and motivations. And resilience, your capacity to recover from setbacks increases through exposure to challenges. These improvements are often only noticeable in retrospect, when you realize you're handling situations differently than you would have in the past. Maintaining faith in your process during invisible periods requires specific strategies and mental frameworks that help you persist despite lack of obvious progress. Process focus means measuring success by consistency in following proven methods and honoring your commitments to daily actions, rather than by external results and comparing your progress to others. Process focus is more sustainable because it provides daily opportunities for success regardless of whether external results are visible yet. Every day you follow your process is a successful day, even if you don't see immediate outcomes. During invisible periods, focus on leading indicators because they're under your direct control and provide more immediate feedback about whether you're on track. Leading indicators are measures that predict future results: daily workouts, time spent learning, number of meaningful conversations, hours of deliberate practice. Lagging indicators are measures that show what has already happened: weight loss, income increase, test scores, relationship satisfaction. Instead of viewing your efforts as isolated actions, think of them as part of interconnected systems that produce results over time. Input systems are what you put into the process: time, energy, attention, resources. Process systems are how you organize and execute your efforts, routines, habits, methods, approaches. Output systems are what you measure and how you evaluate progress: metrics, feedback mechanisms, assessment methods. Feedback systems are how you use results to improve your inputs and processes, reflection practices, course corrections, optimization strategies. Systems thinking helps you understand that temporary lack of outputs doesn't mean your inputs and processes are failing. It might just mean the system needs more time to produce visible results. Patience cultivation practices include studying examples of people who achieved similar goals to understand their timelines and challenges, keeping detailed records of your efforts and small improvements to create evidence of progress during periods when advancement isn't obvious, developing practices that strengthen your belief in eventual success, visualization, affirmations, connection with your deeper purpose, and surrounding yourself with people who understand long-term development. The psychological challenge of invisible progress requires specific strategies for maintaining motivation and momentum when external validation isn't available. Develop internal validation by regularly acknowledging your efforts and commitment, regardless of visible results. Take pride in your consistency and dedication to the process rather than only celebrating outcomes. Focus on becoming the kind of person who follows through on commitments rather than just achieving specific goals. Connect your daily efforts to your deeper values and long-term vision. Find others who are working on similar long-term goals and can provide mutual support and encouragement. Connect with people who have achieved what you're working toward and can provide perspective on the natural timeline of development. Regularly share your process with others, focusing on consistency and effort rather than just results. Participate in communities focused on process consistency rather than outcome competition. Regularly remind yourself why your goal matters and how achieving it will impact your life and others' lives. Consider how your development serves others rather than just yourself. This provides motivation beyond personal gain. Frame invisible periods as essential parts of the development process rather than as setbacks or delays. Avoid burnout by maintaining intensity you can sustain over the long term rather than maximum effort that leads to exhaustion. Plan regular periods of rest and renewal to prevent accumulation of physical and mental fatigue. Occasionally modify your approach to prevent boredom while maintaining consistency in core activities. Create specific ways to acknowledge progress and milestones, even small ones. Throughout history, the most significant human achievements have required individuals to trust processes that others couldn't see or understand. Most successful businesses require years of invisible development before becoming profitable or gaining public recognition. Writers often spend years developing their voice and skills before producing work that gains recognition. Musicians typically practice for thousands of hours before their technique becomes effortless and expressive. Deep, meaningful relationships develop through countless small interactions over extended periods. Trust, intimacy, and mutual understanding build gradually through shared experiences, honest communication, and consistent care for each other's well-being. Lasting personal change typically involves gradual shifts in identity, habits, and perspectives rather than sudden dramatic transformations. The ability to trust your process during invisible periods is ultimately an act of faith. Faith in yourself, faith in proven methods, and faith in the natural timeline of meaningful development. This faith isn't blind optimism or wishful thinking. It's based on understanding how change actually occurs, studying examples of others who have achieved similar goals, and committing to daily actions that compound over time into extraordinary results. When you can trust your process during invisible periods, you gain access to achievements that most people never reach because they quit before their efforts have time to compound. You develop the rare and valuable ability to persist through uncertainty and delayed gratification. Your invisible progress is real progress. Your unseen growth is genuine growth. Your hidden efforts are building something significant, even when you can't see it yet. Chapter 9. Stay locked in on your vision until you win. In 1990, A young software developer named Jeff Bezos had a vision that seemed absurd to almost everyone who heard it. He wanted to create an online bookstore that would eventually sell everything and become Earth's most customer-centric company. At the time, most people barely knew what the internet was, online commerce didn't exist, and the idea of buying books without seeing them first seemed ridiculous. Bezos quit his lucrative job on Wall Street, moved to Seattle, and started Amazon in his garage. For years, the company lost money. Investors were skeptical. The media was critical. During the dot-com crash of 2000, Amazon's stock price dropped 94% from its peak, and many experts predicted the company would fail. But Bezos stayed locked in on his vision. While competitors focused on quarterly profits, he invested everything back into customer experience, infrastructure, and long-term capabilities. While critics called him crazy for not showing immediate profits, he remained committed to his 20-year plan. Today, Amazon is one of the world's most valuable companies, and Bezos's vision of customer centricity and global reach has been fully realized. The key to this success wasn't superior intelligence or lucky timing. It was the ability to stay locked in on a clear vision despite years of doubt, criticism, and apparent failure. A true vision is more than a goal or wish. It's a clear, compelling mental image of a future you're committed to creating regardless of current circumstances. Visions have unique psychological properties that make them powerful tools for sustained motivation and decision-making. Dr. Alvaro Pascual-León's research at Harvard Medical School reveals that mental rehearsal creates the same neural pathways as actual experience. When you repeatedly visualize achieving your goals, your brain builds the neural infrastructure needed to make that vision reality. Brain imaging studies show that people who regularly engage in detailed visualization show increased activity in motor cortex regions associated with the visualized actions, develop stronger neural connections between planning and execution centers, experience reduced anxiety when facing challenges related to their vision, and maintain higher motivation levels during difficult periods. Your brain has a filtering mechanism called the reticular activating system, RAS, that determines what information reaches your conscious awareness. The RAS filters the millions of stimuli you encounter each day, allowing only a tiny fraction to enter your conscious mind. A clear vision programs your RAS to notice information relevant to your goals. When you're focused on starting a business, you suddenly notice business opportunities everywhere. When you're committed to improving your health, you become aware of fitness resources and healthy food options you previously overlooked. People without clear visions don't benefit from this filtering effect. Their RAS doesn't know what to prioritize, so they miss opportunities that could advance their goals. The most powerful visions become integrated with your sense of identity. Instead of thinking, "I want to become a successful entrepreneur," you begin thinking, "I am an entrepreneur who is building my success." This identity shift changes your behavior patterns because people act consistently with their self-image. Not all visions are created equal. Some inspire sustained commitment while others quickly lose their motivational power. Understanding what makes visions compelling helps you develop ones that will sustain you through inevitable challenges. Vague visions create vague actions. "I want to be successful" doesn't provide enough detail to guide daily decisions. "I want to build a company that serves 100,000 customers by solving their productivity challenges through innovative software solutions" gives your brain specific targets to work toward. The best visions engage all your senses. What will success look like, sound like, feel like? What conversations will you be having? What problems will you be solving? What impact will you be creating? Where will you be working? Who will you be working with? What will your typical day involve? What challenges will you have overcome? How will achieving your vision feel? What emotions will you experience? What will it mean to you personally and to people you care about? Visions must matter deeply to you personally, not just be things you think you should want. Society, family, and cultural expectations can influence your goals, but unless a vision connects to your authentic desires and values, it won't sustain you through difficult periods. Your vision should express your core values rather than contradict them. If you value family time but your vision requires sacrificing all personal relationships, the internal conflict will eventually undermine your commitment. The most sustainable visions are driven by internal satisfaction rather than external rewards. While money, recognition, and status can provide motivation, they're less reliable over the long term than the satisfaction of creating something meaningful. Consider how your vision fits into the larger story of your life. What do you want to be remembered for? What impact do you want to have on others? How does this vision serve something larger than yourself? Effective visions stretch you beyond your comfort zone while remaining believable to your conscious mind. If a vision seems impossible, your brain will resist committing to it. If it seems too easy, it won't generate sufficient motivation. Consider visions that are roughly 10 times larger than what you think you can currently achieve. This forces you to think differently about approaches and possibilities while remaining within the realm of believability. Break large visions into smaller milestones that build toward the ultimate outcome. This provides regular success experiences while maintaining focus on the larger destination. Identify what capabilities you'll need to develop to achieve your vision. This creates a clear learning and development path. Having a compelling vision is just the beginning. The real challenge is maintaining commitment to that vision when faced with obstacles, distractions, and the inevitable resistance that comes with pursuing anything worthwhile. Spend time each day mentally rehearsing your vision in vivid detail. This keeps the neural pathways strong and maintains emotional connection to your goals. Regularly write about your vision, exploring different aspects and implications. Writing engages different parts of your brain than visualization and deepens your commitment. Surround yourself with visual reminders of your vision. This might include photos, quotes, symbols, or objects that represent what you're working toward. Keep records of advancement toward your vision, no matter how small. This provides evidence that your vision is achievable and maintains motivation during difficult periods. When facing decisions, ask, which choice moves me closer to my vision? This simple question eliminates many distractions and keeps you focused on what matters most. Every yes to something unrelated to your vision is a no to something that could advance your goals. Regularly assess whether your time and energy investments align with your priorities. Ensure that your methods for pursuing your vision align with your values. Compromising your integrity might provide short-term gains but undermines long-term success and satisfaction. As you pursue significant visions, you'll encounter various forms of resistance from others and from your own psychology. Understanding these patterns helps you recognize and overcome them. People closest to you might unconsciously resist your vision because change in your life implies changes in your relationship with them. They might express concern, point out risks, or subtly discourage your efforts. Colleagues and industry peers might view your vision as unrealistic or threatening to their own positions. They might offer realistic advice that actually serves to keep you at their level. Broader cultural messages might contradict your vision, especially if you're pursuing something unconventional or challenging established norms. As your vision becomes more public, you'll encounter criticism from people who don't understand your goals or feel threatened by your success. Maintain clarity about whose opinions actually matter for your success. Listen to feedback from credible sources while ignoring noise from people who aren't qualified to assess your potential or methods. As you advance toward your vision, You might feel like you don't deserve success or don't have the qualifications to achieve your goals. The desire to execute your vision perfectly can create paralysis that prevents you from taking necessary action. Measuring your progress against others' apparent success can undermine confidence in your own path and timeline. Achieving your vision will change your life in significant ways, and this change can feel threatening even when it's positive. Develop self-awareness about your personal patterns of self-sabotage and create specific strategies for maintaining momentum despite internal resistance. Staying locked in on your vision doesn't mean never adjusting your approach or refining your goals. The key is distinguishing between helpful evolution and destructive abandonment. Healthy vision evolution includes changing how you pursue your vision while maintaining commitment to the ultimate outcome, adjusting your expected timeframe based on new information while maintaining long-term commitment, clarifying or focusing your vision as you gain more knowledge and experience, and revising intermediate goals while keeping the ultimate destination constant. Destructive vision abandonment includes constantly changing visions based on immediate obstacles or new opportunities, reducing the scope of your vision because current challenges feel overwhelming, abandoning your vision to please others or conform to their expectations, and choosing immediate rewards over long-term vision achievement. When considering vision changes, ask, am I modifying methods or abandoning outcomes? Is this change based on new information or temporary emotion? Does this adjustment serve my long-term goals or immediate comfort? Am I evolving my vision or avoiding challenges? Staying locked in on your vision creates compound benefits that extend far beyond achieving specific goals. Pursuing a long-term vision requires developing multiple capabilities over time. These skills compound and cross-pollinate, creating expertise that's valuable beyond your original goals. Consistent commitment to a vision attracts others who share similar values and ambitions. Over time, this creates a powerful network of relationships that multiply your capabilities and opportunities. People who consistently work toward meaningful visions develop reputations for reliability, ambition, and follow-through. This reputation becomes an asset that opens doors and creates opportunities. Each time you choose your vision over immediate gratification, you reinforce your identity as someone who can be trusted to achieve ambitious goals. This identity becomes self-reinforcing and expands what you believe is possible. Extended commitment to a vision develops your ability to recognize patterns, opportunities, and solutions that others miss. This expertise becomes valuable in ways you can't currently predict. Throughout history, the most significant human achievements have required individuals to stay locked in on visions that others couldn't see or understand. Marie Curie spent years isolating radium despite skepticism from the scientific establishment. Her commitment to her vision of understanding radioactivity eventually earned her 2 Nobel Prizes and revolutionized physics and chemistry. Steve Jobs maintained his vision of intuitive, beautiful technology products through numerous failures and setbacks. His commitment to this vision created products that changed how humans interact with technology. Martin Luther King Jr. stayed committed to his vision of racial equality despite threats, imprisonment, and massive resistance. His unwavering focus on this vision helped create lasting social change. Van Gogh sold only 1 painting during his lifetime, but continued creating art because he was locked in on his vision of expressing human emotion through color and form. His commitment to this vision eventually created some of the world's most beloved artwork. Oprah Winfrey maintained her vision of authentic, empowering media despite criticism and industry resistance. Her commitment to this vision created a media empire and influenced millions of lives. The pattern is consistent. People who achieve extraordinary things stay committed to their visions longer than seems rational to outside observers. Your vision is your North Star, the fixed point that guides your decisions when everything around you is changing. It's the future you're committed to creating regardless of current circumstances, temporary obstacles, or others' opinions. Staying locked in on your vision isn't about stubbornness or inflexibility. It's about having such clarity about where you're going that you can navigate around obstacles without losing sight of your destination. When you truly commit to a vision and refuse to abandon it despite challenges, you join the ranks of people who shape the world rather than simply react to it. You become someone who creates the future rather than someone who waits for the future to happen to them. Your vision is calling you. The only question is, will you answer that call and stay committed until you win? Chapter 10, Rise Again. On February 11, 2003, Columbia Space Shuttle disintegrated during re-entry, killing all 7 crew members aboard. For NASA, this was the second catastrophic shuttle failure in 17 years, following the Challenger disaster in 1986. The space program faced intense criticism, budget cuts, and calls for its complete termination. Many would have interpreted these failures as signs to abandon space exploration altogether. The risks were too high, the costs too great, the failures too public. But NASA understood something crucial about meaningful endeavors. Setbacks aren't the opposite of success, they're part of the path to success. Within months of the Columbia tragedy, NASA began redesigning safety protocols, improving technology, and preparing for future missions. The agency used the failure as fuel for innovation rather than as an excuse for surrender. 7 years later, they successfully completed the shuttle program and began developing even more ambitious projects, including the mission to Mars. This response illustrates the most powerful principle in human achievement. Your capacity to rise again after failure determines your ultimate success more than your ability to avoid failure in the first place. If you're pursuing anything worth achieving, failure isn't a possibility, it's a guarantee. The question isn't whether you'll face setbacks, but how you'll respond when they occur. Why failure is universal. Learning curve reality. Mastery requires making mistakes, identifying what doesn't work, and adjusting your approach. Failure is information, not condemnation. Complexity navigation. Meaningful goals involve complex challenges with multiple variables, many of which you can't control or predict. Growth requirements. Pursuing goals that match your current capabilities doesn't require growth. Goals that demand growth necessarily involve reaching beyond your comfort zone, and statistical probability. Even with perfect preparation and execution, some endeavors involve elements of chance. Occasional failures are mathematically inevitable. Dr. Martin Seligman's research at the University of Pennsylvania reveals that resilience isn't a fixed personality trait. It's a skill that can be developed through practice. Brain imaging studies show that resilient people have stronger connections between their prefrontal cortex, rational thinking, and limbic system, emotional reactions. This neural connectivity allows them to process emotional reactions to setbacks without being overwhelmed by them, maintain perspective during difficult circumstances, generate creative solutions under pressure, and learn from failures without becoming defensive. The most encouraging discovery is that these neural patterns can be strengthened through deliberate practice, meaning anyone can become more resilient by repeatedly choosing constructive responses to challenges. Dr. Richard Tedeschi's research on post-traumatic growth shows that many people don't just recover from significant setbacks, they actually become stronger, wiser, and more capable as a result of their challenges. People who experience post-traumatic growth often report increased appreciation for life and relationships, greater sense of personal strength and capability, deeper spiritual or philosophical understanding, stronger, more authentic relationships, and clearer priorities and values. This growth doesn't happen automatically. It requires conscious effort to extract meaning and lessons from difficult experiences. But the potential for growth through adversity is available to anyone willing to approach setbacks as opportunities rather than just obstacles. Rising again isn't a single action. It's a process that involves several distinct phases, each requiring different skills and strategies. Phase 1. Immediate response. The first few hours and days after a significant setback are crucial for setting the trajectory of your recovery. Allow yourself to feel disappointment, frustration, or sadness without rushing to get over it. Suppressing negative emotions prevents proper processing and can lead to more intense reactions later. While acknowledging the reality of your setback, resist the urge to catastrophize or generalize the failure to your overall capabilities. One failure doesn't define your potential. Reach out to people who can provide emotional support, practical assistance, or valuable perspective. Isolation during setbacks often amplifies their negative impact. Maintain fundamental practices that support your physical and mental health: sleep, nutrition, exercise, and stress management. These become even more important during difficult periods. Phase 2. Assessment and learning. Once the initial emotional intensity subsides, shift focus to understanding what happened and extracting valuable lessons. Examine the situation as factually as possible. What specific factors contributed to the setback? Which were within your control, and which weren't? Consider whether this setback reflects broader patterns in your approach, decision-making, or circumstances. Repeated similar failures often indicate systematic issues that need addressing. What capabilities, knowledge, or resources might have prevented or minimized the setback? This identifies areas for future development. Assess whether your methods, processes, or support systems need modification based on new information from the failure. Phase 3. Strategy development. Transform the lessons from your analysis into concrete plans for moving forward. Based on your analysis, how will you adjust your strategy, methods, or timeline for future attempts? What specific capabilities will you develop to increase your chances of success in future endeavors? How can you strengthen your network of advisors, collaborators, or supporters? What steps can you take to prevent similar failures or minimize their impact if they occur? Phase 4. Recommitment and action. The final phase involves renewing your commitment to your goals and taking concrete steps forward. Confirm that your fundamental objectives remain valid and meaningful to you. Sometimes setbacks reveal that goals need modification. Make a conscious decision to continue pursuing your vision despite the recent setback. This recommitment is crucial for maintaining motivation. Take concrete steps forward as soon as possible. Action builds momentum and confidence while preventing extended periods of inactivity. Establish systems for monitoring your advancement and celebrating small victories as you rebuild momentum. Not all failures are the same, and different types of setbacks require different strategies for recovery. Job loss can feel devastating, especially if your identity is closely tied to your work. Recovery involves both practical job searching and psychological adjustment to temporary unemployment. Entrepreneurial failures can involve significant financial losses and public embarrassment. Rising again requires addressing both practical concerns, finances, legal issues, and emotional challenges, self-doubt, shame. Sometimes the setback isn't a dramatic failure but rather a gradual realization that your career isn't progressing as hoped. This requires honest assessment of your goals, strategies, and market realities. Whether romantic relationships, business partnerships, or close friendships, relationship endings can feel like personal failures. Recovery involves processing grief while learning from relationship patterns. Significant conflicts with family members can be particularly painful because these relationships are central to identity and support systems. Sometimes entire professional or social networks dissolve due to conflicts, moves, or life changes. Rebuilding requires starting fresh while applying lessons from previous relationship experiences. Serious health problems can derail career and personal goals while forcing reassessment of priorities and capabilities. Depression, anxiety, and other mental health challenges can undermine confidence and motivation, requiring both professional treatment and personal coping strategies. Overcoming addiction often involves multiple attempts, with relapses being common parts of the recovery process rather than ultimate failures. Significant financial losses can threaten security and force major lifestyle adjustments while also undermining confidence in decision-making abilities. Overwhelming debt can create stress that affects all areas of life, requiring both practical debt management strategies and psychological coping mechanisms. Entrepreneurial failures often involve personal financial losses that can take years to recover from practically and emotionally. Like physical fitness, your ability to recover from setbacks can be systematically developed through practice and preparation. Regularly put yourself in situations that require you to overcome obstacles or push beyond your comfort zone. This builds confidence in your ability to handle difficulty. Practice viewing failures as learning opportunities rather than personal defects. Look for examples of how past setbacks contributed to later successes. Gradually expose yourself to increasing levels of stress or pressure in controlled environments. This builds your capacity to maintain performance under adverse conditions. Practice your response to hypothetical setbacks by creating detailed plans for how you would handle various types of failures. Develop the belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort and learning. This makes failures feel less threatening and more instructive. Train yourself to view setbacks within the context of your entire life journey rather than as isolated catastrophes. Understand that most failures result from multiple factors interacting rather than single causes. This reduces self-blame and increases focus on systemic improvements. Study Nassim Taleb's concept of antifragility, the ability to benefit from stressor and challenges rather than just survive them. Build strong relationships before you need them. People are more willing to help those who have previously invested in the relationship. Develop connections with people who have overcome similar challenges and can provide guidance based on their experience. Identify therapists, coaches, or consultants who could provide assistance during difficult periods. Participate in groups or organizations that share your values and interests. These communities can provide support during individual challenges. Understanding the psychological dynamics of rising again helps you navigate the mental and emotional challenges involved in recovery from setbacks. Significant failures often damage your sense of identity, especially when they occur in areas central to how you see yourself. Recovery involves reconstructing a more resilient and accurate self-image. Learn to distinguish between your behaviors and your fundamental worth as a person. You are not your failures any more than you are your successes. Develop identity based on multiple roles, values, and capabilities rather than placing all your self-worth in one area. This makes setbacks less threatening to your overall sense of self. Create a personal story that incorporates failures as necessary chapters in your growth rather than as contradictions to your potential. Setbacks can undermine confidence in ways that make future attempts feel more difficult. Rebuilding confidence requires deliberate effort and strategic approaches. Create opportunities for small successes to rebuild your belief in your capabilities. These victories provide evidence that counters negative self-talk. Invest in developing capabilities that increase your chances of future success. Competence-based confidence is more stable than confidence based purely on positive thinking. Keep records of your strengths, achievements, and positive feedback to reference during periods of self-doubt. After significant setbacks, it's common to lose motivation for pursuing challenging goals. Restoring motivation requires reconnecting with your deeper purposes and values. Remind yourself why your goals matter beyond just personal achievement. How does your success serve others or contribute to something larger than yourself? Ensure that your goals align with your core values rather than just external expectations or pressures. Spend time visualizing the positive outcomes that will result from achieving your goals, making the benefits as vivid and compelling as possible. History provides countless examples of people who turned devastating setbacks into fuel for extraordinary achievements. After being forced out of Apple, the company he co-founded, Jobs could have retired or pursued other interests. Instead, he started Next and acquired Pixar, developing skills and perspectives that made him even more effective when he returned to Apple. After being fired from her first television job for being too emotionally invested in her stories, Winfrey could have abandoned media careers. Instead, she used the feedback to develop her authentic style, which eventually made her one of the most influential media personalities in history. After failing at multiple business ventures and reaching age 65 with little money, Sanders could have accepted a quiet retirement. Instead, he franchised his chicken recipe and built KFC into a global empire. After divorce, unemployment, and clinical depression, Rowling wrote the first Harry Potter novel in cafes while raising her daughter alone. Her willingness to continue creating despite personal setbacks led to one of the most successful book series in history. After multiple business failures, a nervous breakdown, and numerous political defeats, Lincoln could have abandoned public service. Instead, he continued developing his capabilities and eventually became one of America's greatest presidents. After 27 years in prison, Mandela could have become bitter or withdrawn. Instead, he used his experience to become a more effective leader and help transform South Africa peacefully. The pattern in these stories is consistent. Setbacks became catalysts for growth rather than reasons for surrender. The ability to rise again isn't just useful for major setbacks, it becomes a way of approaching all challenges, large and small. Practice recovering quickly from small disappointments, mistakes, or setbacks throughout each day. This builds your overall resilience capacity. Approach each day with curiosity about what you might learn, including from things that don't go as planned. Regularly adjust your plans and approaches based on new information rather than rigidly sticking to original strategies. When facing setbacks, consciously expand your time horizon. How will this situation look in 5 or 10 years? Train yourself to look for potential benefits or opportunities that might emerge from challenging situations. Consistently view challenges as opportunities to develop capabilities rather than as threats to your self-image. Cultivate relationships with people who embody resilience and can provide encouragement during difficult periods. Help others who are facing setbacks. This reinforces your own resilience while creating a support network based on mutual assistance. Share your experiences of overcoming challenges with others who might benefit from your perspective. Rising again isn't just about recovering from failure, it's about becoming the kind of person who gets stronger through adversity, who finds opportunities in obstacles, who transforms setbacks into setups for future success. Every time you rise again, you prove to yourself and the world that you can't be permanently defeated. You demonstrate that your commitment to your goals and values is stronger than any temporary circumstance. Your setbacks don't define you, your responses to them do. Your failures don't determine your future, Your decision to rise again does. The ground is not your destination. Rise again. Your greatest victories are waiting on the other side of your greatest challenges. If you'd like to purchase this book, please check the link in the description. To listen to the audiobook summary or explore it in another language, you'll also find more options in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you found this helpful. Conclusion: the 4 pillars of lasting transformation. At the beginning of this book, you encountered a simple but profound truth. Consistent self-focus can literally rewire your brain for success, resilience, and well-being. Now, after exploring 10 comprehensive principles for personal transformation, you have something far more valuable than knowledge. You have a complete system for becoming the person you're capable of being. But knowledge without implementation is merely entertainment. The principles in this book only become powerful when they become practices, when they transform from ideas you understand into actions you take consistently. As you begin implementing these principles, it helps to understand how they work together as an integrated system. Think of your transformation as a structure supported by 4 fundamental pillars, each essential for stability and growth. Pillar 1. Self-construction, chapters 1 to 3, represents your commitment to internal development regardless of external circumstances. It begins with the daily discipline of building physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual strength. It continues with training your mind to ignore outside noise and maintain clarity about what matters most. It culminates with fighting for your dreams especially when, no one else believes in them. The practices of this pillar include daily habits that strengthen your body, mind, and character, mental boundaries that protect your attention and energy, and unwavering commitment to your vision despite external skepticism. This pillar answers the question, who am I becoming through my daily choices? Pillar 2, Daily Discipline, chapters 4 to 6, transforms good intentions into concrete results through systematic daily action. It requires showing up for yourself consistently, creating environments that support focus and eliminating those that create distraction, and taking complete ownership of your circumstances and outcomes. The practices of this pillar include consistent daily actions aligned with your long-term vision, environmental design that makes success easier and failure harder, and complete responsibility for your choices and their consequences. This pillar answers the question, what am I doing today to create the tomorrow I want? Pillar 3, Persistence Mastery, chapters 7 to 9, addresses the psychological challenges of long-term development. It requires pushing yourself harder when you feel like quitting, maintaining faith in your process during invisible periods of growth, and staying committed to your vision until you achieve it. The practices of this pillar include mental strategies for continuing when motivation disappears, faith in compound growth during periods when progress isn't visible, and unwavering commitment to your vision despite obstacles and delays. This pillar answers the question, how do I maintain momentum when the path becomes difficult? Pillar 4, Resilient Recovery, chapter 10, ensures that temporary setbacks don't become permanent defeats. It involves developing the capacity to recover quickly from failures, extract learning from every experience, and use challenges as fuel for growth rather than reasons for surrender. The practices of this pillar include systematic approaches to learning from failure, rapid recovery protocols that minimize downtime after setbacks, and anti-fragile mindset that becomes stronger through adversity. This pillar answers the question, how do I turn every experience, positive or negative, into fuel for growth? These 4 pillars don't operate independently, they reinforce and strengthen each other. When all 4 pillars are strong, they create a structure capable of supporting achievements that currently seem impossible. Your implementation should follow a phased approach. Start with foundation building by choosing 2 to 3 simple daily habits and focusing on consistency rather than intensity. Identify your biggest sources of mental noise and distraction, then implement basic information boundaries. Build your daily discipline framework by optimizing your physical spaces and beginning each day by taking responsibility for your outcomes. Develop your capacity for long-term commitment by practicing continuing activities when you want to stop and clarifying your long-term vision in writing. Finally, combine all elements into a comprehensive lifestyle through monthly reviews, quarterly challenges, and annual visioning sessions. As you implement this transformation, you'll encounter predictable challenges. Be prepared for the motivation trap, waiting for motivation before taking action, perfection paralysis, avoiding action because you can't do everything perfectly, comparison curse, measuring your progress against others, instant gratification demand, expecting immediate results, and support system gaps, lacking encouragement from people who understand your goals. Understanding the typical timeline helps maintain realistic expectations. Months 1 to 3 involve foundation and habit building. Expect to feel challenged by daily discipline, but you're creating necessary neural pathways. Months 4 to 6 bring momentum and integration as habits feel more natural and you start seeing initial results. Months 7 to 12 involve acceleration and refinement as compound effects become obvious and you experience breakthrough moments. Year 2 and beyond represent mastery and expansion as your new identity is well established and you're capable of increasingly ambitious challenges. As you implement these principles and experience their power in your own life, you'll discover something remarkable. Personal transformation naturally expands into broader impact. When you become your strongest self, you inspire others to pursue their potential. When you achieve your dreams, you prove that audacious goals are possible. When you rise again from setbacks, you demonstrate resilience to everyone watching. Your commitment to focusing on yourself becomes a gift to the world. By refusing to settle for mediocrity in your own life, you raise the standard for everyone around you. By fighting for your dreams despite doubt, you give others permission to fight for theirs. By consistently showing up and pushing through, you model what's possible when someone commits fully to their growth. This conclusion is actually your commencement, the formal beginning of your journey toward becoming everything you're capable of being. The principles in this book work, but only if you work them. The transformation is possible, but only if you commit to the process. You now have the knowledge, strategies, and framework needed to create extraordinary results in your life. You understand how to build strength, maintain focus, persist through challenges, and recover from setbacks. You know what it takes to win big by focusing on yourself. The transformation begins now. Your strongest self is waiting. Your life is calling. Answer with everything you've got. Win big by focusing on yourself every single day.